You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cricket Podcast, where I've traded in Max for... No, I've traded in Ross for Max to talk about the 100. I'm Jacob. I'm joined by Max. How you doing, Max? That's four Maxes.
Right. Well, you just want to make sure you get it right the right way around, and after the initial mix-up. Yeah, great to have joined the side halfway through the season, hoping we can kick on and really keep the form going and take us onto a famous piece of trophy.
That was good. Tweet something like before we get on with things, just a few messages. We are at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. We're on TikTok, the Cricket Podcast. We can be found on Patreon too, patreon.com/the Cricket Pod, from £4 a month, $5, 400 rupees, 7 Aussie dollars, I think 9 Canadian, an amount of zloty. Someone's bonus is zloty.
Really?
Zloty, yeah. You can support the show, keep us in business, and you get like bonus content. It's a good deal. Makes us happy. And we're sponsored by manscaped.com. Max, how are your testicles doing this Monday?
Beautifully manicured.
Yeah,
not manicured, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Looked after.
Can I ask you a question?
You can always. What
does Mrs. Max Rowe Brown think of the Manscaped situation?
She thinks it's hilarious.
Was that the reaction? Just hilarity?
Well, just sort of about the whole offering, all the things that you can get. She laughed when I told her about ball deodorant, but
the ball deodorant. You've been going on about this ball deodorant. You must have left a serious impression.
I like it.
Anyway, look. The show is presented by Manscaped.com. They're our partners. We're enjoying working with them, and you can enjoy working with them too. Lawnmower 4.0. Get your testicles shaved. Use the code the Cricket Pod. No, not the Cricket Pod. Use the code Cricket Pod.
It's in the
show notes. It's in the show notes. For 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Once more, Cricket Pod for 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Max, we're going to talk about the 100. We're not going to talk about every game in loads of detail, but we will go through what we have seen, and we're going back a few days to Friday afternoon here. Second match of, we'll do them in pairs. Well, no, we'll do them one at a time. Otherwise, it'd be really confusing if we did the men's and the women's game at the same time. We'll do it chronologically, though. Spirit v Brave, that was Friday's game. What you need to know from this, if you didn't catch it, was that Beth Mooney was really good. And then Southern Brave won easily, or quite easily. And we did say, Max, didn't we, that, and maybe maybe we'll start with a talking point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did say, didn't we, that we thought that the record set in the first game of Women's 100 this year, oval chasing, was at 144 to win, would be beaten. I didn't think it would be beaten the day
immediately.
but it was impressive, wasn't it? It feels to me, and I'm fairly sure the numbers back this up, that there have been a lot more runs in the women's game this year. Why do you think that is?
It's definitely how it seems, isn't it? Like you said, there are two record chases in the first two games. Phoenix, which will come on to hit the second highest total ever in the women's 100, and then there was another 150 odd later in the piece. So definitely a sign of higher scores. I think probably a combination of the direction of travel of women's cricket in general. I think, even in the space of a year, just there's a group of cricketers coming through that just are better and are able to basically able to accelerate and score at a higher rate than perhaps had been the norm for a few years. So that's one aspect, and I think the other aspect is probably just the addition of the Australians.
Yeah, there is a flotilla.
Because Beth Mooney, 97 or 55 in that game, and there's a whole host of others who either put in performances over the course of the weekend, or did record breaking or making things, and it's just a higher quality of tournament, a higher quality of cricket all round. I think it's just an example of where things are going, and it's great to see.
Yeah, just looking at the top run scorers, Beth Mooney's top 127 runs. Elise Perry on 97 now after a couple of knocks. Laura Wolfhart in the top 5 as well with 73. Did Wolfhart might have played last year. I can't quite remember, to be honest. I know there were some South Africans around, but it does show the impact of having quality all rounders at 6. Smriti Mandana. And then Susie Bates also in the top 10. I think maybe Amelia Kerr, although my counting sort of gets a bit worse the further down it goes, but Amelia Kerr somewhere around the top 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think perhaps you're on something there with overseas players. I thought just as another point, because Spirit have lost their first 2 games now, haven't they? I think they missed Heather Knight a little bit in terms of leadership.
Yeah.
And possibly with the bat too. They've gone from, I thought, one of the best players in the best teams in the tournament to probably not going to make the playoffs and probably one of the more average sides with her loss. Looking good for the Southern Brave though, and maybe we'll have more on them later. Men's game, same thing. Basically, Southern Brave didn't seem to hold on, what am I talking about here? The other way around. Didn't think London Spirit had enough runs. Turned out they had enough runs. I don't remember this game being particularly exciting. Is there anything you wanted to say about it?
No, the funniest thing was Quinton de Kock's run out in the chase, where he and Alex Davies ended up halfway down the wicket, staring at each other, gesticulating wildly at who was at fault, and that was quite funny. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't exactly high drama, this one, I don't think. Maxwell scored runs and Bell Drummond scored runs for Spirit, but it was just a case of they just keep finding ways to win so far, don't they? We thought, I mean, there was the Lords game where we against the Originals, where we thought that maybe they were a little light because of the short boundary, and Originals just absolutely capitulated. And in fairness to Spirit, they did bowl very well in that game and their plans were good. And again, sort of against Brave, they did damage early, and Southern Brave never really got going. They just found ways to strangle them and keep them at bay. And they've got a good thing going.
Prior to the tournament, I think we had London Spirit right down the bottom, Southern Brave at the top. It's the old switcheroo has been performed by these two. London Spirit, I said this on the show with Cameron on Friday. I'm still not absolutely sure they're very good. I think they've benefited from a little bit of luck, and we'll talk maybe a little bit about Rossington in a minute specifically. But I don't think they're a 4-0 team. I think they might be about average. They're sitting 4-0, and they're almost certainly going to make the playoffs now. But they've had a night. Things have come together nicely for them. Southern Brave, on the other hand, it's been a bit of Murphy's Law going on there. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. Tyrell Mills out for the tournament now. That's pretty bad news. Chris
Jordan's injured as well.
Some sort of an injury. We talked about George Garton with Cameron last week and his troubles with long COVID. Were we wrong, or has fortune just got in the way of our prediction?
I think we've got a get out of jail free card on this one, haven't we? I mean, without 2 of your most important guys with the ball, they've not been able to. Well, they haven't been as strong as we had them down on paper. I think Mills and Jordan's having a good year. Mills, we know is on his day quality, and had a really good 100 last time round. So I think 2 strike bowlers out and 2 of the higher paid guys as well. It's difficult to have the depth in the 100 to be able to come in and replace them. And add in sort of George Garton's struggles to that. That's a pretty large contingent of your 100 balls that you can't rely on anymore. And I think we saw that to a degree with what I'm sure we will come to in a few games' time.
So moving on to the next set of fixtures, the Trent Rockets against the Manchester Originals in the women's game. first up. Trent Rockets batted first, and I think it's fair to say didn't light things up. They got 119, which I say didn't light things up. I think that was higher than the average score for a team batting first at the Women's 100 last year. So it's an amount of runs, and sometimes Old Trafford could be a bit capricious. I'm not sure that was the case here. The real story though is Alana King, right? She batted well. She took a good catch. And she picked up a hat trick. Bold LBW, bold, a pretty lethal combo. And Trent Rockets bowled out Manchester Originals for 76. Feels to me a little bit like whenever you turn on the TV at the moment, Alana King is doing something.
yeah, it is a bit like that, isn't it? She's quite the player. And first hat trick in the Women's 100. Great to see. Great from her. 4 ducks in the Originals lineup. Tells you, well, obviously you're going to get 2 when there's a hat trick. Well, most likely, but it tells you what you need to know about that chase. They just didn't get going. And Alana King's hat trick was one thing, but you should probably give a mention to Catherine Bryce, who went for 2 runs off 12 balls. That's obscene.
That's pretty good. And there's a really good catch. Lizelle Lee was the only original to sort of cause
threaten
or to put any pressure on the Rockets. Was taken brilliantly by Sarah Glenn running back at mid on or mid off, one of the two.
Mid off, I think.
One of those mid positions. So yeah, good work for the Rockets. They look like a pretty good team. Manchester Originals didn't. In the evening match, the men's game, it wasn't a dissimilar performance to some of the others from Manchester Originals. They batted first. They scored a boatload of runs, and then they looked like a team that couldn't really bowl. The things I picked up from this,
that
I thought were quite interesting. One, Samit Patel. So Manchester Originals, they've just decided left-handers aren't required. Samit Patel bowled in a game where par was going to be 200. 20 balls, 20 for 2 were his figures. They've got a problem, I think. The Manchester Originals here, if you didn't notice already, in their last match before that, Mason Crane took figures of 21 for 3 at Lords, again against loads of right-handers. Also quite a lot of fun. I mean, there's a whole bunch of weird shit going on here. Dre Russ batted at 3. Tristan Stubbs came in, hit Shamsi for 4 sixes, then got lots of craziness. Fundamentally,
I mean, Andre Russell coming in at 3 made sense though, didn't it? Because Josh Butler had hit 40 off 25 and Phil Sword hit 70 off 46. So they'd got a really good platform, and you're like, why not send in the guy to keep?
So why didn't they do this against London Spirit?
Well, exactly. It's really confusing, isn't it? It's sort of like the same logic, but the flip side, isn't it? They were behind the game, and they need to speed up, and they just refused to send him in.
You know why it is?
Why is that?
What I think is they spent 125 grand on Laurie Evans, and they're embarrassed.
They want to get their money's worth.
Yeah, they have to sometimes play it.
Yeah.
So lots of crazes. We haven't even mentioned the good thing, the thing that made this match special. David Milan going ballistic.
Yeah.
Hitting 98. More or less, I wouldn't say single-handedly, but doing a lot of the hard work, taking that chase on his back, and taking them to the win. If you were him, would you be annoyed? Because there were enough balls left to go for a single and then give Milan a chance.
Didn't he get stranded with at the last end of 10? But with only 1 needed to win, so he was basically
it was something like that.
So it was like he was just standing looking at what could have been, which is a shame. Now that's where the rule of not being able to cross when you're out has done for David Milan.
True.
There. He could have got Cobain to just spoon one up.
He's had a very good start to the tournament, hasn't he? Again, I mean, it's the same points as you made on the last podcast. A very good player. You just sort of sometimes forget that because there's some things that he doesn't do. Amazingly, he's not the world's best player of spin. He used to not start that quickly. Now he starts. Now he starts quickly. I mean, his batting average for the tournament, Max, 101 after today's failure.
That's all right.
200.
That's quite good. I mean, we spoke, didn't we, before the 100 kicked off about whether it might be the grounding for people to get on the plane to Australia for the T20, or at least cement their place. Well, I mean, Dabba Milan is a perfect example of someone in that conversation, isn't he? You know, he's in the England team, but sort of where does he fit in?
I think it's pretty. I can't see him not batting 3 for England at the World Cup now.
Is there an argument to push him up one? And if we're dropping J. Roy,
go for Butler, Milan, Stokes. I don't know who bats 4. Bairstow, Ali, something like that. Livingston, Ali.
Any of them?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think you can do Milan, Stokes, and then Moeen Ali. I think that's you've got the inverse of the originals problem there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not really sure what England will do on that front. I feel like David Milan batting really well as an opener doesn't solve the problem that Ben Stokes probably isn't in their best 11. You know, if they want to open with Milan, they need a new number 3. I think Milan is pretty certain to go to the World Cup now.
I think so.
Whether that's as an opener or as number 3, I suspect it'll probably be as number 3. It's kind of by the by. And the rest of the stuff they'll have to work out. I don't know. Well, maybe we'll talk. There's a couple of other candidates who announced themselves, weren't there? In these days. Maybe we'll get to them. Upshot of all of this was that Trent Rockets won by 8 wickets with 6 balls to spare. I think it was the so I guess Manchester Originals, it was the second highest score in the history of the 100. Now it's the third highest score. They couldn't defend it for 1.25 hours. They lost it pretty quickly.
Good deck, obviously.
Yeah, that moves us on to Welsh Fire v Birmingham Phoenix in the early game, the women's game. Birmingham Phoenix won relatively comfortably as they got 161, and Welsh Fire never really put them under any pressure. It was very much an innings of going through the motions.
It was reduced the damage to the net run rate chase.
Yeah, in the afternoon, Welsh Fire managed to completely screw up a very easy.
They'd won the game.
A very easy chase. They were chasing 130, and they fell 4 runs short.
Didn't they need like 15 or 13 at the end? And then Kane Richardson bowled a really good.
It was something like that. I think they needed like 30 off 25. It became it managed to become 11 off 5, which you should still win, to be honest, if you're batting. I think
it was like 13 off 10 became 11 off 5 or something like that. I think that was
and then they made it 9 off 1. Before they decided going. Killer Miller stranded at the wrong end, 35 from 30. It's just really bad cricket. It has to be said. I know. Like Benny Howe's amazing, but 12 off 20 balls for him with a wicket thrown in, and Kane Richardson figures 15 for 2 from his 20. But that's just so abysmally bad. And then to top it off, they skittled, or they ran through the top order of Birmingham Phoenix, and right at the end, Benny Howell and Tom Helm managed to hit a few sixes and get them up.
Even the last ball of the innings was like a leg side full toss from Jake Ball that went for 6, and it's like that is now the difference.
What's going on with Welsh Fire, Max?
Well, they're basically as good as we said they were, aren't they? They haven't. I don't think they've got the bowling, and without Johnny Bairstow, they definitely don't have the batting. They're just they're an okay side in a competition with a lot of good teams, I think.
Yeah. Tomorrow is Manchester Originals v Welsh Fire. Who will win? Who will win? I'm going to say it's worse than this. The combined worst franchises. Who's worse, the Manchester Originals or the Welsh Fire?
I think it's got to be Welsh Fire.
You think Welsh Fire are even worse than the Originals?
I think they are, yeah. There's at least stuff in the Originals team to be excited about. If you forget the fact that they're all right-handed, they do have Joss Butler and Phil Salt and Andre Russell and Tristan Stubbs, and they are box office. And you compare that with sort of the top order of Welsh Fire, and you're like, you're all good county players, but you're not on the same level. And then the bowling is kind of equivalently average. So
well, there we go. I look forward to that competition.
Might be a really good game.
Or don't. We rattle quickly on a few more games to get through. Superchargers v Spirit. the next match in the women's side, and I spoke about this earlier. I think the loss of Heather Knight was really felt by the women, as they kept the Superchargers to a pretty chaseable score of 127. They were weird Superchargers in this innings. Laura Wolfhart literally just didn't try and hit the ball until really late in the innings. I don't know why. In response, London Spirit they managed to get the equation down to a situation. They needed 80 off 65 balls with all 10 wickets in their hand. And this is where you really miss someone like Heather Knight. You should win that match very, very comfortably. For some reason, Beth Mooney ran herself out. It was a really good piece of keeping. It was like a suicide run and then a terrible throw in. And then
was this and
then
swivel
Healy
and throw.
Managed to sort of flick it over her shoulder or something like that. And that was bad. I mean, like if you are, Beth Mooney's probably worth 4 or 3 of anyone else in that team.
Yeah.
I'd say I've got that, this is a completely made up calculation. 60% of the batting ran herself out. And that,
well, it was more than that in the first game, wasn't it? So
yeah, that is pretty bad. Sophie Luff batted pretty well to keep them in with a chance. He did 7 from 2, but she was at the wrong end, and that was it. All she wrote. London Spirit 2 losses. It's actually going to be pretty hard to come back from that in a six match tournament.
Yeah, so they're in trouble.
I think who
have they lost? Well, they lost to Brave, who we had down as a strong team, but Superchargers, we weren't that hot on.
They were in the mixer.
That's a game they really want to be winning to make it through. So yeah, they could have their work cut out with the remaining fixtures they've got.
Superchargers got a record. Was it 1-1 now? They're like 3 parts dream team, 8 parts terrible. Maybe not terrible, but 8 parts definitely not dream team.
Yeah.
It'll be if you have got the dream team element, you could go on a little run with Jemima Rodrigues and Wolfhart, etc. But I haven't seen them live. I'd be very surprised, to be honest, if either of those 2 teams make the playoffs. So judgment made. In the men's game, Adam Lyth continued his run of fantastic 50-0, or created a run. I'm not sure if he continued. Got 0. That's what you need to know. Superchargers got 144, which is pretty under par at Headingley. The highest scoring ground, I think, 100 so far. In response, this was the fun bit. Adam Rossington, looks like a bit of a character. Got some good gloves. 50 and 15 balls. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Quickest
Blitz Live's recent record.
Yes.
Lots of records being made and immediately smashed this year. That's good.
He did. Fun, yeah. Maxwell got 43 of 25, and I think made the highlights for 2 shots.
Well, the ramp thing was obscene, wasn't it?
He's off to Australia now to play.
Is he in the squad?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Well, that's what I read. Yeah. So he is gone. I think that was his last involvement. But
he also went for 6 runs off his 15 balls that he bowled.
Did he?
That was worth mentioning. But Rossington got hero of the match.
Yeah. Well, I'm no surprise. Spirit of 4-0. This is what I mean with Spirit, though. Like, I'm not saying they're a bad cricket team. I think when we labelled them the worst team in the tournament, I very fairly take that criticism back, and I think clearly they're better cricket teams than Welsh Fire. Clearly they're a better cricket team than Manchester Originals. I'm not sure I think they're probably better than Northern Superchargers as well. I think they might not be better than the other 4 teams in the tournament, but they put away 2 of the Dross sides, haven't they? And they got that win against Oval. They're 4-0 up, or 4-4-0 now. They need 1 win.
Well, they're basically there, aren't they? Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go with Glenn Maxwell going. That'll be that'll be tough.
Is it English? Josh Inglis coming in?
Yeah, so I mean he's not exactly a bad player, is he?
That replaces the batting, and then I guess Dan Lawrence bowls a little bit more. So
yeah, and I mean I think they might be a team that's more than the sum of their parts is probably they've actually got basically a bowling lineup that won the Blast. In Crane, Dawson, and co. Maybe there's more to them than we gave them credit for, and so as a group, they've excelled.
I think they're maybe a better put together team than we thought.
Yeah.
I think there's no real legislating for, and I mean this in the nicest way possible. Adam Rossington scoring 50 or 15. That's I looked this up. I actually look at all of his T20 matches. I think it's his 6th highest score in 101 T20 matches. So that's pretty good. That's in basically in the 5th percentile, or is it not 5th percentile, the 95th percentile?
Yeah, 95th.
Depends which way you look at it. Top. It's very, very good performance. You'd expect him to do that once every 2 seasons.
It's
in the
far
100,
from the
probably.
mean.
Yeah, it was the fastest he's ever scored in a T20.
Yeah.
It's not even like he gets 15 or 5 regularly or something like that. This was the fastest he'd ever scored. Now he's a guy with a little bit of pop for sure, and he likes swinging the bat around. But he's probably played the best innings of his career here and banked a win automatically. Like there's no pressure. As soon as he walked off the pit, or as soon as he faced 15 balls, the game was over. Jordan Thompson's probably another one. There's not really a lot in his numbers that suggests he's a 20 ball a game bowler. Like he gets a little bit of punishment. He's having a very good 100.
Yeah, well, I think he's one of those. I think he's a guy who's having a breakout year.
I don't know. I looked at this. He doesn't seem to be.
Well, he had a decent blast. He's taken important wickets. He's
had big moments. But,
yeah. Clutch moments for sure.
Well,
and it's earned him a place in some T20 franchise leagues. So good on him.
No, for sure. And then Mason Crane's as a third one who didn't have a very good blast and is having a pretty good 100. I think things have come together for them in a rather fortuitous way with, say, those 3 players. Owen Morgan being able to bat again. All of these things were unlikely, and they have worked. And now we will probably see them play some knockout cricket in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
Move on to the next day. This is a good one. Is the Invincibles v the Brave? The Invincibles dropped their captain in the women's game early on, Dana van Niekerk,
Why?
to play Marizani Cap, Susie Bates, and Ishmael. Capsy was also ruled out. Obviously,
she's got an ankle injury.
So they went with those 3 overseas players. They lose by 12 runs. They make that the story effectively, then, don't you? If you drop the captain and lose the match. As it happens, they're playing a good team. Southern Brave are a decent team. There's not really any shame in losing to them, especially if you're shorn of one of your best batters. And that does happen.
And then deprive yourself of your captain.
What did you think about that call?
It was. I suppose I have respect for it in the sense that it was the bold call, wasn't it? With Cap coming back in, you have to have Ishmael in there for the pace bowling. And then, Susie Bates is a tough one to leave out, but you're dropping a captain who's won you the 100 last year, and obviously gives you something with the ball as well. So, and especially with Alice Capsey out, you're losing some balls there. I think it was a strange one. It's easy to say that after the fact when you've lost it, but you look at this lineup and you're like, they've dropped their captain. That's immediately a strange decision to have made. But if you've got 4 overseas players and you're struggling to fit them into your lineup, I suppose that's kind of a good problem to have in a way.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I actually read the Capsy thing the other way around. I think they might have left Susie Bates out. But because Capsy wasn't playing, they needed a bit more batting. And whilst Van Niekerk's not, necessarily a bad batter, average of 36 in women's ODI internationals, ODIs. She's not necessarily an explosive batter either. Yeah. Strike rate sub 100 in 86 women's T20 internationals. So I do see why, from a batting point of view, you might have wanted Cap, for example, in the side instead, and just for the sake of I mean, I guess it's they lost to the better team on the day, and that may well have happened with Van Niekerk or without Van Niekerk. Yeah, like you say, they made that the story, but that's not necessarily the reason. I've looked up Cap's numbers; they're not really that much better than Van Niekerk. In fact, in some ways worse. So perhaps Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm not sure I absolutely buy into that call, but they did it and they lost, so they'll probably switch back because that's how
Yeah,
cricket
I
works.
expect so.
In the evening match, what happened was Southern Brave set Will Jacks 138 to win, and he got 108 in 48 balls. I think they finished. I think he hit a 6 to win. So what did they get? Did they get
Two consecutive
144?
sixes to win.
No, but I mean they got 144. So I they didn't.
142.
So he got
two. He
well,
got
let's just do the
108
maths.
of 48. The rest of the team got 34 of 34.
He got 76% of the runs.
Yeah, the next highest scorer was Sam Curran with 11. It was obscene.
insane.
It was. I mean, I was there and watching it as a fan, not with my press pass. And,
8 6s.
And I'm glad I went for that option because it was 88 runs in boundaries, 10 fours and 8 sixes. It was an exhibition basically from Will Jacks. He just destroyed everyone that came to him. It was a phenomenal performance.
No
And
one else of the team had a strike rate above 100.
no. Literally, he made it look like an absolute road, and everyone else who went out there, it looked like, well, I mean, it didn't quite look like Ahmedabad, but it was a struggle to bat for literally everyone except Will Jacks. It was one of the most one of the most ridiculous performances I've seen in sort of terms of how he differentiated himself from everyone else on the pitch on that day. It was an absolute joy to be there. It was stunning to watch, and it was so nice at the end as well when he was sort of, the crowd was getting excited that he was approaching 100. He got to 94, and everyone was, like, yeah, go on, do it with a six, and trying to get him on strike. And there were sort of a couple of singles, and it was like 10 balls left, and 10 or 20 balls left, weren't there? And Ray and Arbeg came on, and everyone was like, here we go, this is it. The first ball of the set, he smacks it for 6 to take himself to 102, and then it was just like, I'll just do it again and end the game. And it was just, everyone was on their feet for the moment, and it was a way to really announce yourself for someone who, people have been talking about for a while. But one other record dusted within a week.
That is the big question here, isn't it? From this performance, well, as brilliant as it was, people will remember it for sure. But in Will Jack's career, is this the point at which he usurps perhaps his partner at the other end for this match, Jason Roy, who picked up another duck in the England pecking order, maybe even leapfrogs Phil Salt?
Yeah, Phil Salt's a tough one, isn't it? Because he's been the next, like you said, the next cab off the rank for a while, and when he's come into the England side, he's done pretty well. I mean, the Netherlands is the Netherlands. It's not quite the level that he'll be tested against in sort of the later stages of a World Cup, but even so, he was pretty phenomenal against them. So it would be, and he's not exactly, had a terrible time of it. So it might be a bit harsh to just swap him over. But, if you play like that, he also hit an 80 odd, didn't he, the other day? And then to go and score 100, he's like the third highest run scorer of the 100 ever, I think, at a strike rate of like 180. You have to think about it, don't you? He is a clearly a precocious talent, and with Will Smeed at 20 and Will Jacks at 23, there's some excitement to come. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it does. I think it leaves England in a slight bind, actually, in terms of what they do with some of the players that are approaching the end and when they get a nudge to.
And I think with Jason Roy, I'm not sure if I pick him to play, but I think I take him because his experience is so invaluable. So it is a tough one. And he was like yesterday, he was on the end of one of those balls that you just get when you're in this situation. It was an unbelievably good ball, wasn't it? It was just like, what would you do? What'd you do to that? It's hooped.
It was. and like George God just hasn't been bowling well.
Yeah.
And this delivery comes out and it's, it looks like it's going to be a not quite a half volley, but a ball you could basically smash through extra cover. Smashes off stump over. I'd love to have seen the expected wickets on it. I imagine it'd been extremely high. It did a lot.
Yeah.
Right, and then that brings us on to today, and then we will pretty much wrap up.
Mhm.
Trent Rockets v Birmingham Phoenix, a grudge match in the women's game. Birmingham Phoenix bowled really well to keep Trent Rockets to 116 and then knocked the runs off with some ease.
Yeah.
It looked like it was going to be difficult at one point, and then Amy Jones and
Elise Perry
Elise
again.
Perry, went sort of nuts and won with plenty of time to spare. A little bit of a formality, and then it wasn't too difficult in the men's game, but you just sort of had 20 runs or 30 runs to the Trent Rockets team batting first.
Yeah,
There's a little bit different in that Daniel Samson and Lewis Gregory did actually fight back, and they got 145.
Well, what was they were 54 for 6 or something around the halfway mark, and ended up on a total that Phoenix would have been pretty disappointed to be having to chase down. And they looked in some trouble halfway through, didn't they? But it was sort of the same with both sides, wasn't it? Like it looked impossible to bat for about 50 balls, and then suddenly it became fine.
It was a bit strange. I didn't think it was a particularly good pitch, but strangely, and I might be completely wrong about this. I'm just going to open my stats up, but the stats here being the scorecard, and have a look. I was going to say, I didn't think it was a particularly good pitch for bowling spin on, but then in the men's game, Imran Tahir, Moeen Ali, and Benny Howell, who's effectively a spinner, picked up 5 wickets between them. So maybe it wasn't. I thought it was one for seamers.
Yeah,
what I thought,
Trent Rockets went with seam, and Luke Wood was unplayable. Like the ball it was just leaping, wasn't it, off the pitch? And the one that got Moeen Ali in the face was pretty pretty nasty, rearing up short ball. So I think the hard ball was what made it tricky.
Maybe.
Because the Rockets went with pace on early on, and and Phoenix went with pace off early on, and either way it sort of gripped or did something a bit tricky. And then as it got softer, I think it got easier to play, whether you were Benny Howell or anyone else.
Yeah, strangely, I think this sort of showed that Trent Rockets might be a seamer down. They looked very good for the first 3 matches, and then in this match they got into a good position, but then like a lot of good teams but not excellent teams couldn't really do anything with it.
Yeah,
they'd done some work, and then they were like, okay, now bad players can have a go.
They did run into Moeen Ali and Liam Livingston,
for sure.
A lot of people have done. Probably we should give a mention to David Milan's refusal.
Oh, that was brilliant. If you haven't seen it, Moeen Ali, I think he hit a couple of sixes off Lewis Gregory, and then skies one just when the game, it might have put. It was tipping towards.
Yeah,
it was definitely the 2 sixes he'd hit had swung the game well towards Birmingham Phoenix. The wicket, if they got him and then they'd managed to get Livingston, then it would have been nervous. Now Matt Wade's got to take them home. David Milan, he's hit it's just up in the air straight to him at extra cover. He loses the ball, and there's a great wide shot of him ducking with his both arms or shielding his head in case the ball lands on him, because he's lost it in the floodlights. Ball lands about 2 yards away from him,
literally directly in front of him, 1 or 2 yards directly in front of it, just plugs. It's a wonderful sight.
It was really funny.
Could have been nasty, could have been really nasty,
could have been.
But it wasn't. It was funny, so it's fine.
That is the 100, Max. There are matches coming up.
Lots of them.
Happens.
Lots of them.
There are. We'll talk about the next couple. Originals v Fire tomorrow. In both matches, are you saying that the Originals are going to win there? I am.
Yeah, I think so.
And then Wednesday, Rockets v Invincibles. That could be quite a big game.
For both sides. Yeah.
I think very difficult to call.
Yeah, it's very much the sort of it's the sort of bottom of the playoff contenders, I think, on that side. And yeah, I don't know which way it's going to go. I think I back the women to bounce back and win that one. On the men's side, it's a really, really tricky one to call. But I think I've got a feeling Trent Rockets might win it, actually. I don't know why.
Okay.
Going with gut.
Okay. I'm going to go with 2 wins for Trent Rockets because they're the home team, and that seems to make a difference in this tournament. Max, final thing: who are your top 3 for the playoffs in both sides? So you can start with the men because we've seen a bit more of them.
Yeah. I mean, London Spirit are basically there, aren't they?
Yeah, so, I think London Spirit are
looking good for them. And I think they've, like you said, usurped Southern Brave. They're the ones to miss out from our early predictions. But otherwise, I think we're probably not far off. I think Birmingham Phoenix will make it. I think they've got enough about them. And then whoever wins out of Trent Rockets and Oval Invincibles tomorrow, no, Wednesday rather, I think we'll be there. So I'm going to go Oval Invincibles.
Cool. And then in the women's side, six-match tournament,
Invincibles, Brave, and Phoenix.
I think the Phoenix. I think the Phoenix, to be blunt, aren't that good still. I think they've played two of the less good teams, and I think
points on the
they
board.
Might. Yeah, they have got points on the board. I suppose that is true. Southern Brave definitely. I think the Oval Invincibles will sort it out, and I still think Trent Rockets will catch up. But
yeah, I mean, I think it's between Rockets and Phoenix for that third spot for me. But I'm going to go Phoenix.
Cool. All right then, Max. Last reminders, people, manscaped.com. Use the code CricketPod for 20% off plus free shipping. Patreon.com/TheCricketPod to support the show directly. That's what we want. You get free content. Well, you don't because you pay for it, but you get extra content, access to a Discord and so on. It's all in the show notes at The Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Goodbye.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.